What if I told you that one man brought the most powerful republic in the ancient world to its knees? An undefeated general, a brilliant politician, a master manipulator, and ultimately betrayed by the very men he considered brothers. Today I'll tell you the story of Julius Caesar, the man who didn't just change Rome. He destroyed it, rebuilt it, and carved his name into eternity. This is how one man's ambition rewrote the course of Western civilization forever. Julius Caesar was born on July 12, 100 BC into a patrician family, noble by blood, but not particularly wealthy or influential in the ruthless arena of Roman politics. His family claimed descent from the goddess Venus herself and the legendary king Aeneas, but in Rome, divine ancestry meant nothing without actual power. Caesar's early life was marked by danger. At just 18 years old, he defied the dictator Sulla by refusing to divorce his wife Cornelia. Sulla placed him on a death list, forcing Caesar to flee Rome and hide in the countryside. This early brush with death taught him a crucial lesson. In Rome you either dominated, or you were destroyed. But young Caesar understood something the old aristocrats didn't. Rome wasn't conquered only with swords, it was conquered with influence, money, and the loyalty of the masses. He was a gifted orator who could sway crowds, a shrewd politician who knew how to forge alliances, and above all, he was viciously ambitious. His goal wasn't just to survive in Rome, it was to own it completely. In 60 BC, Caesar made one of the most brilliant political moves in history. He formed a secret alliance known as the First Triumvirate with two of Rome's most powerful men, Pompey the Great, Rome's most celebrated general, and Marcus Licinius Crassus, the richest man in Rome. Together, they effectively controlled the republic. Caesar secured the position of consul in 59 BC, the highest political office in Rome. But 1 year of power wasn't enough. He needed military glory, wealth, and a loyal army. So he maneuvered himself into the position of governor of Gaul, modern-day France, where he would write his legend in blood. Caesar also understood the power of personal connections. He married his daughter Julia to Pompey, cementing their alliance through family bonds. Every move was calculated. Every relationship was a tool. The turning point of Caesar's life came with the Gallic Wars, which lasted from 58 to 50 BC. For nearly a decade, Caesar conquered what is now France, Belgium, parts of Germany, and even launched expeditions to Britain, the first Roman general to do so. But these weren't just military campaigns. They were a masterclass in warfare, propaganda, and empire building. Caesar didn't just defeat entire tribes, he annihilated them. In the siege of Alesia in 52 BC, he faced the united Gallic forces led by the chieftain Vercingetorix. Caesar was outnumbered, surrounded, and trapped. So what did he do? He built a double wall, one to keep the Gauls trapped inside Alesia, and another to protect his own forces from Gallic reinforcements. Against impossible odds he won. His campaigns were brutal. Estimates suggest that 1 million Gauls were killed and another million enslaved. Entire populations were wiped out. But in Rome he was celebrated as a hero. He sent back detailed reports of his conquests, reports we know today as Commentarii de Bello Gallico, or the Gallic Wars, which served as brilliant propaganda pieces, making him a household name. His soldiers didn't just respect him, they worshipped him. They were loyal not to Rome but to Caesar himself. He paid them well, fought alongside them, and shared their hardships. This personal army would become his greatest weapon, and Rome's greatest fear. But back in Rome, everything was falling apart. In 54 BC, Julia, Caesar's daughter and Pompey's wife, died in childbirth. The personal bond holding the alliance together was broken. Then in 53 BC, Crassus was killed in battle against the Parthians at Carrhae, one of Rome's most humiliating defeats. Now it was just Caesar and Pompey. And Rome wasn't big enough for both of them. The Senate, terrified of Caesar's growing power and popularity, sided with Pompey. They demanded that Caesar disband his army and return to Rome as a private citizen, which would leave him vulnerable to prosecution and almost certain death from his political enemies. Caesar had a choice: obey and die, or rebel and become an enemy of the state. On January 10, 49 BC, Caesar stood at the banks of the Rubicon River, the boundary between Gaul and Italy. Roman law forbade any general from crossing this river with an army. Doing so was an act of war against Rome itself. Caesar hesitated. This wasn't just a military decision. It was the point of no return. Once he crossed, there would be no forgiveness, no negotiation. Only total victory, or total destruction. Then he spoke the words that would echo through history: Alia iacta est, the die is cast. He crossed with his 13th legion. Civil war had begun. The Roman Republic would never recover. What followed was a brutal civil war that spanned the entire Mediterranean. Pompey and the Senate fled to Greece, expecting to regroup and crush Caesar with their superior numbers. But Caesar moved with terrifying speed. He chased Pompey across the sea and faced him at the Battle of Pharsalus in 48 BC. Despite being outnumbered nearly 2-1, Caesar's tactical genius and the fierce loyalty of his veterans led to a crushing victory. Pompey fled to Egypt, where he was assassinated by the Egyptian court, hoping to win Caesar's favor. When Caesar arrived in Egypt, he was presented with Pompey's severed head. According to accounts, Caesar wept. Whether from genuine grief for his former ally or political theater, we'll never know. What we do know is that he stayed in Egypt, became entangled in a civil war between Cleopatra and her brother Ptolemy, and began one of history's most famous love affairs. Caesar installed Cleopatra as Queen of Egypt. She would later bear him a son, Caesarion. But he couldn't stay. His enemies were regrouping. Over the next few years he fought campaigns in Asia Minor, North Africa, and Spain, systematically destroying every threat to his power. After the Battle of Zela in 47 BC, he sent the Senate a message of just 3 words: Veni, vidi, vici, I came, I saw, I conquered. This wasn't just confidence. It was dominance. By 46 BC, Caesar had returned to Rome as the undisputed master of the Roman world. He was granted multiple consulships, given sweeping powers, and eventually in 44 BC, was declared Dictator Perpetuo, dictator for life. But Caesar wasn't just a conqueror. He was a reformer. He reformed the Roman calendar, creating the Julian calendar with 365 days and a leap year. Yes, the calendar we still use today is his creation. January through July still follows his system. July itself is named after him. He launched massive public works projects, gave land to his veterans, extended Roman citizenship to people in the provinces, reformed debt laws, and even planned ambitious projects like draining the Pontine marshes and cutting a canal through the Isthmus of Corinth. But he also centralized all power in his own hands. He filled the Senate with his supporters, reduced its authority, and placed his image on coins, something previously reserved for gods. Some senators whispered that he wanted to be crowned king, the most hated title in Roman tradition. For many, Caesar was no longer a leader. He was a tyrant wearing a thin veil of legitimacy. On March 15, 44 BC, the Ides of March, a group of senators set their plan in motion. They called themselves the Liberators, claiming they were saving the Republic from tyranny. In reality, many were motivated by personal ambition, jealousy, and the desire to restore aristocratic power. Among the conspirators were men Caesar had pardoned, men he had promoted, men he had trusted. And most painfully, Marcus Junius Brutus, a man Caesar loved almost as a son. Some even whispered that Brutus might actually be Caesar's biological son from an affair with his mother, Servilia. Caesar was lured to a Senate meeting at the theater of Pompey. As he entered, the conspirators surrounded him. One grabbed his toga, the signal to attack. Then the daggers came out. Caesar fought back at first, but when he saw Brutus among his attackers, he stopped resisting. According to the historian Suetonius, he pulled his toga over his head and said in Greek, Kai su teknon? You too, child? The more famous Latin phrase et tu, brute, was immortalized later by Shakespeare, but the sentiment was the same: ultimate betrayal. Julius Caesar was stabbed 23 times. He collapsed at the base of Pompey's statue, the cruel irony not lost on history. The liberators believed they had saved Rome. They were catastrophically wrong. Caesar's assassination didn't restore the Republic. It destroyed it completely. The power vacuum ignited another series of brutal civil wars. Mark Antony, Caesar's loyal general, and Octavian, Caesar's 18-year-old adopted heir and great-nephew, hunted down the assassins. At the Battle of Philippi in 42 BC, Brutus and Cassius were defeated and committed suicide. But Antony and Octavian couldn't share power either. Their alliance fractured, leading to yet another civil war. Octavian emerged victorious at the Battle of Actium in 31 BC, defeating Antony and Cleopatra, who both committed suicide. In 27 BC, Octavian became Augustus, the first Roman emperor. The Republic was officially dead. Ironically, the man who killed Caesar created exactly what Caesar's assassins feared most: an empire ruled by one man. And Caesar's influence didn't end with Rome. His name became synonymous with supreme power. Caesar became a title: Kaiser in German, Tsar in Russian, and Caesar in Arabic. For 2,000 years, rulers across Europe and beyond claimed his legacy. Even today we live in Caesar's shadow. Our calendar is his. Our concepts of executive power, military command, and political propaganda all bear his fingerprints. July is named after him. Caesarian sections bear his name. The very word czar that we use for powerful executives comes from him. Julius Caesar never became emperor, but he built the road that made emperors possible. Julius Caesar was a hero to some, a tyrant to others. A brilliant general and a ruthless killer. A reformer and a dictator. A lover and a conqueror. But nobody can deny one thing: Rome was never the same after him. The Republic died with Caesar, or perhaps it died by his hand long before the Ides of March. So I'll leave you with this question. Was Caesar a savior who brought order to a corrupt, failing system? Or was he a power-hungry dictator who destroyed democracy for personal glory? Drop your answer in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive into history, hit that like button, subscribe for more content like this, and let me know what historical figure you want me to cover next. See you in the next video.